I want to preface this video by saying that this is not a step-to-step guide on how to write your first novel. This is what I believe you should know and have done before writing your first novel. If you don't know me, my name is Alex, I am 16 years old, and I've been writing since literally forever. I'm currently 20k words into my first novel, and I've been taking writing seriously for the past couple of months. This is what I wish I had known before starting to write. So we're gonna do this step by step. The first category that I want to talk about is confronting your fears, the fears that are holding you back from writing. Yeah, that's basically it. I know that every writer is afraid of writing bad stuff, which is obvious. Like, why wouldn't you be? But writing isn't this sacred holy craft that you can only do if you've mastered it. Like, you gotta do it to do it, you know, like that's the whole point of it. And I know, like, it's easy to say, just write. So here are a few tips on how to overcome your fears. So first, you need to know that your first draft is going to be awful. No matter how hard you try, if it's your first attempt at a novel, it's going to be awful. That's what editing is for. And if you just start writing, the desire to write is actually going to keep growing with writing. If you want to get some experience before writing your first novel, I'm assuming you already have experience with writing, because like nobody starts off writing their first novel before having ever written before. I would advise you to use writing contests to get experience in writing, because it motivates you to do well, and you can also earn some money if you do well. For me personally, when I first started writing, like actually writing, I would actually get goosebumps every time that I wrote, and this should not happen to you, so just try to calm yourself and remember that writing is just writing. It's not that big of a deal. Now let's move on to the second category. Before you start writing your first novel, you should have a good routine. From that routine is actually going to stem your motivation. So to be motivated, you need a routine, because writing doesn't actually come from motivation, it comes from discipline or routine. And a lot of people might already know this, but if you don't, here's what I did. When I started taking writing my novel seriously, I began by writing 500 words per day, which is not that much, but you have to get into it first, you know? Like, sometimes I'd write more, sometimes I write 1,000 words per day, and sometimes I'd only write 100 words per day. But you have to sit down almost every day to write. If you don't want to go to your desk every single day, write in bed. It's not that big of a deal. Like, you can write anywhere you want, which brings me to my next tip. Bring your device, probably your laptop, which you write on, anywhere you go. I know it's heavy, but you're gonna have to be able to afford that. I personally take my laptop to school, I take it to the park, I take it to bed. Just take it anywhere you go, so you'll be forced to write, because like you have this heavy object in your backpack. You don't want to have brought it there for nothing, so just bring it anywhere you go. The next tip is that you need to have written at least a couple of books in the genre that you want to be writing. So obviously, as you know, you need to know your genre before you start writing your novel, so you know what readers expect from you and what publishing agencies expect from you if you want to go down that path. So I personally started reading thrillers last year, and for the past half of a year, I think I've read about 5 thrillers, which is not that much, but having read a couple of thrillers, I think I now understand what the experience of reading a thriller is like and what a thriller needs to contain in order to be entertaining. But at the end of the day, it really just comes down to your story, which brings us to our next and most important part of writing a novel. The most important thing you need to have done before writing your novel is you need to understand what story is. Now, if you're an experienced writer, you might already know about this, but there's this book called Story Genius by Lisa Croft. It is by far the most important book to have read before starting your novel. Story Genius is actually kind of a step-to-step guide on how to write your book, but it doesn't focus on plot, it focuses on story. Yes, there's a difference. Story is the internal conflict of your protagonist, and the plot is basically what happens. The plot should get in your way of your protagonist achieving their goals. And there's a lot more to say about this, but I'm not going to get too much into it because you should just read the book. Like, buy the book and read it. It's really, really important. Story Genius talks about a lot of things, but here are some things that I found most important. So first of all, when you write, you always need to ask yourself why. So you don't need to plan out your protagonist's entire backstory. That's going to take too much effort, and it's just going to be senseless. Story Genius is going to tell you how to find out what your protagonist is all about without writing an entire backstory for them. There are very few people out there who are actually able to write their novel just from scratch without ever having heard about story or plot or anything really. But that talent is very rare, and you can have a lot of talent and still need to use kind of a guide. So I would advise you to start an outline before you write your story. Now for the last thing I want to talk about, a lot of people probably will say, well, that's not really important. I actually believe it is, because it cost me a lot of, well, frustration because I didn't do it. I think you should start off by finding a platform for writing that you like. I personally use Scrivener. It's not free, but it's a one-time purchase, and it only costs like between 30 to 50 euros or dollars, and it's really helpful for me personally. I started off writing in Word, which I personally didn't really like. It didn't motivate me to write more. It just kind of felt boring, so I switched over to Reedsy, and I love Reedsy. It's perfect for writing, except you can't write offline. Like, not at all. You have to always have Wi-Fi in order to be able to write on Reedsy, and that is why I switched to Scrivener. Why I'm saying this is that, like I said, I switched from Reedsy to Scrivener a couple of weeks ago, and it really frustrated me because I had to copy paste my entire work. It was really frustrating, especially because from Reedsy you can only export your book as a PDF or as an EPUB, and obviously you can't edit a PDF or an EPUB. That's why I had to copy paste literally everything. So here's a quick list of websites or platforms that you can use. Not all of them are free, but Scrivener, Reedsy, Word, and Google Docs. There's lots more. You can find them anywhere. Just Google it. There are free ones. There are ones that you pay for, but I personally use Scrivener, and I know that a lot of writers do as well. So this was basically it. I really hope that I was able to help you. I know I'm not an experienced writer, but I am currently working on my first draft of my first novel, so I kind of know what is to be expected of this process. Just know that it's gonna be really hard and confusing, and you're gonna want to give up most of the fucking time, but it's worth it, probably. I don't know, I didn't finish my novel, but I'm assuming that it's worth it to follow your dreams and everything. I don't fucking know. Alright, bye!